In the Alps, there are different soil types, including peatlands. These have a lot of carbon stored. They are made up of plant material that has accumulated over time. Dry soils have air inside, but peatlands are saturated with water. That creates an environment without oxygen, which makes it more difficult for microbes to break down the plant material. The conditions in the peatlands lead to methane production. Methane is a greenhouse gas 30 times stronger than CO2.
Within the geomicrobiology group in Tübingen, we investigate greenhouse gas emissions from soils. This includes looking at the microbes that live inside these soils, for example the ones that produce methane or the ones that consume it.
Right now, we're exploring a method on how to reduce the methane coming out of these alpine peatlands. Our goal is basically to tackle global warming at one of its sources.
Next to looking at which factors influence the production of methane, the scientists from Tübingen are also investigating a method on how to reduce methane coming out of these alpine peatlands. This idea was initiated by Professor Kappler and one of his master students, Tjove, to find a way to tackle global warming at one of its sources. One of these sources are the alpine peatlands near Lech in the Austrian Alps, which we have been investigating for the past 2 years. The goal of our project is to pump air into the soils which normally lack oxygen. The idea is that putting oxygen into the soil leads to less methane being released into the atmosphere because it is harmful to the microbes that normally digest the organic matter and produce methane. Additionally, oxygen makes it possible to convert more methane into CO2, a less harmful greenhouse gas than methane. Overall, this would lead to a decrease in climate warming. In the field, this approach is implemented by cutting into the soil and pumping air with a small pump connected to a tube. This introduces more oxygen into the water in the soil and improves the processes reducing methane emissions. To investigate how much this affects the soil and the greenhouse gas emissions, water and gas samples were taken in the field and brought back to Tübingen for analysis in the lab.
Our measurements show that the methane coming out of the peatland can be reduced by up to 94% compared to the natural state of the peatland. Our approach is in principle feasible. However, we are not sure how long this effect lasts and how it affects the soil chemistry. Our results are promising, but we need to do more research to find out how it affects the soil and the microbes living within. Also, scaling this approach to a larger area so that it can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions from peatlands remains an unexplored challenge.
Tjove's work is our first major project at this field site, but we'll continue to work in the Alps to understand the greenhouse gas dynamics in these ecosystems. Because it's important we understand what can and cannot be done to protect the alpine environment and the climate.